Hi, and a big welcome back to the channel today. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I really appreciate you, especially if you are a subscriber. It's great to see you on the channel. Today's video is by popular demand. I'm going to be talking about the 5 different ways that you can invest in precious metals. I'm going to go through the pros and cons of each way, so that by the end of this video, you'll be able to decide for yourself which strategy in terms of investing in metals is right for you. So let's get straight into the content now then. So option 1 then should come as no surprise to any of you, and that is physical. So I have right here with me physical silver. So this is a 1 ounce coin from the United States Mint. So this is called a 1 ounce silver eagle. And actually I don't just have one here, but I have a whole box of them here so you can see. I didn't bring any gold today, so I'm going to be focusing primarily on silver, but we will be discussing gold as well, because these strategies apply to both gold, silver. They apply even to platinum and other precious metals as well. But we'll just talk about these first. So these are the most common things to invest in. A 1 ounce silver coin in a capsule like this is usually your best bet when it comes to purchasing silver. Of course, there's pros and cons of each. The smaller the amount of silver, the larger the premium you tend to pay. So the premium is different to the spot price. So firstly, you've got to understand the spot price is the price of silver. So that's unrefined silver. So let's say 1 ounce of unrefined silver, and let's say it's $25. Well, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to buy a coin like this for $25, because of course the mint has to refine the coin. That involves employees, involves equipment. There's a lot of processes around that. So you won't get this for $25. You'd get it at, let's say, $35, just as an example. And they don't just come in coins like that capsule, you also get them in tubes like this. So this is 20 ounces here. This is how I prefer to get them. I much prefer coins. I personally prefer 1 ounce coins when it comes to silver like this. And I prefer them in these tubes because it's easy to transport, as opposed to having a big box like this here, which is a little bit more tricky. But the reason I prefer, so this is one of the pros of physical silver, I don't just have this as, say, an investment, even though I don't consider silver and gold as an investment, which might sound strange to many of you. What I consider metal as is a store of value. For me, an asset or an investment is something that gives me a return. So something like this will not give you a return, like let's say a farm or a real estate or a house that you might rent, or like a stock, you get paid a dividend, etc. This, you don't get paid anything. This is a store of value. This is money. When people talk about money, they often talk about currency, which is very different. A banknote. A banknote isn't money. That is currency. It has no stored value, whereas metal does. So that's one of the pros. Now, the reason I prefer coins like this when it comes to silver, a lot of the silver that I have is more of a hedge. So if everything, let's just say everything collapsed around us, the world came to an end as we know it, which is extremely unlikely to happen, but let's just say that happened, things like this would become money again, as has happened throughout history. So having, even if you have just 10, 20 ounces of silver like this, this would be a good protection, a good hedge for you. A lot of the prepper community as well recommend 1 ounces coins of silver. So that's just one aspect of it. Of course, the other benefit of physical silver is that you actually have it in your hand, and you know it's in your hand, it's legitimate, it's real money, so that you've always got that as a store of value. Whereas money in the bank can, you know, throughout history what's happened, banks have collapsed, and now of course we have bail-in laws where banks don't even need to be bailed out by the government anymore. They can just dip into your savings and steal your money, depending of course on the country that you live in. But bail-in laws are real now. So this is another pro of having physical metal like this. If you're enjoying this video so far, please do me a quick favor, just click the like button, just helps me to get the video ranked. Thank you so much. So what are the cons then? What are the negatives of actually holding physical metal at home, especially? Well, number one, you can see here I don't have any gold to show you. I would never hold physical gold at home, ever. And my wife and I, we travel a lot anyway, so we wouldn't want to transport a lot of metal everywhere we go with us, because it's pretty heavy. And the benefit as well of silver is that if someone did break into your home and they tried to steal your silver, it's pretty difficult to get away with a lot. I mean, this tray here is pretty heavy. I mean, if I had a rucksack or something, I could probably get 10 of these at the most in there before the rucksack split. In fact, 6 or 7 would probably start to tear the rucksack. So someone couldn't get away with a lot. But if we had this same amount in gold, they could get away with hundreds of thousands, potentially even $500,000 worth of gold. So you see the difference here. And that's if you were, if you actually held that much at home, which I have heard people say before that they do hold that sort of money in gold. I don't recommend it. And we'll come on to strategy 2 then as to what I recommend when it comes to having large amounts of, say, 10,000 or more. Where do you store that? And just a final point, which I see as a negative with physical metal, especially gold, is that people, come up with all sorts of elaborate plans, such as they get these huge heavy safes, they put them under the floor, they concrete them in, they then put floorboards over the top and nail them down, then a rug, then a big china cabinet, then the piano, and all this sort of stuff, which is great, it's fantastic. However, if you're buying from a main bullion dealer, or someone hacks those accounts and they find out that you have this metal and it's been delivered to your house, because it's all recorded, they have to keep records of all of this, and someone decided to burgle your house, it makes no difference how secure you've got your metals. You've seen this a lot in other undeveloped countries where there's break-ins. Those people are simply going to, and I'm not even going to say exactly what they're going to do because it's pretty nasty stuff, but if you've got a family, I think you get what I'm saying here. You're going to open that safe if they break into your home. So just be very, very careful with this. This then brings us on to option 2, which is vaulted metals. And as the name suggests, this simply means keeping metals in a vault. And there's really 2 strategies with this as well. So let's cover these 2 strategies and then the pros and cons. Well, strategy 1 is that you actually buy your coins like this, and you take that tray or that box or however you have it, or this capsule here, you take that to a private vault and you request that they store it for you. Now, listen to what I'm saying here. I'm not saying a bank, okay, or a jewelry store or anything like that. I would never store my metals in something like that, like a jewelry place or a bank. I actually, and this is a true story, I went one day to a bank because I was considering putting some gold into a vault because I had a little bit of gold at home. I didn't want to keep it at home and I was very wary of it. So I went to a bank and I asked them about their safety deposit boxes, and they explained the whole process and all this. And the crazy thing is, what I realized was that they said you can store it and it costs this amount, and it was very high. They said, but you need your own insurance. And it made me think, well, what's the point in keeping it in the bank then? Why not just keep it at home where I know I can see it and then get insurance to keep it at home? What's the point in keeping it at the bank? And this is why I said at the start, true story. A little while later, that bank went out of business. And I don't know what would have happened to all of those safety deposit boxes, but I'm guessing there's a risk there that I would have lost what I had in that safety deposit box. So these are some of the risks that you've got to think about, especially when you're putting, valuables into a bank. Remember, a bank is a private institution, it's a commercial entity. If they go bankrupt, they're probably going to take your assets, your possessions with them, as many people unfortunately found out in previous recessions where you may have lost your savings. And of course, let's come on to a negative then. Even though I do keep the majority of my metals in a vault, I've done a lot of research, and I don't just have them in one vault, I have my metals in several vaults, both here and in the United States. So I'm well aware of the risk, but I keep them diversified. The vault that I use in the United States has been around for a long time, and the vault in the UK has been around for over 100 years. So they've gone through various recessions and crises, and they've never just given up their, people's metals or anything like that. But I don't want to overcomplicate this video, so let me just keep it simple. If you use the correct type of vault, you will see that legally your metals in that vault, even if they go bankrupt or anything like that, are still your possession. And that's what I like about certain vaults, that you can put your own physical metal in as storage. Now, I did say there's two strategies, so let me give you another one. So I'll give you an example. Bullion by Post is a UK company where you can purchase metals from them and they will vault them for you. So you purchase from the company, they have their own vaults, they then put the metal into their vaults on your behalf, and you have an account with them digitally. Now, just one point as we're going through this, because I think it's really important, is that none of these strategies that I'm going to tell you about are 100% risk-free. None of them. In fact, there isn't much you do in life when it comes to money and investing that is 100% risk-free. But as we go through these different strategies, you'll probably, I hope, find the strategy that's right for you and carries the least amount of risk. So the main advantage then with vaulted metals, and why I store 99% of my metals in a vault, is that I don't have to worry about somebody breaking into my house and stealing all of my metal. So personally, that's why I prefer the vault. I think it's the best option for me. I'm not saying it's the best option for you, but for me personally, I find that to be the best option. So what are the negatives with the vault? Well, there is always the risk, we can't just discredit this, there's always the risk that a vault or a company like a bullion company could go bankrupt or go into liquidation. There's always a risk with that. Now, the way you get over that is you check the legal aspects of it, you check the small print, and you make sure that in there are the correct legal clauses that states that even if the company goes bankrupt, that asset is not part of the company, that is your personal possession, and that if anything ever happens, you are allowed to come and collect your personal items. So that is something I would definitely look out for in the small print. Option 3 then, when it comes to precious metals investing, is allocation. Now, I know many of you will have never heard about allocated metals before, so I'll briefly touch on this now. So allocated metals is, as it sounds, you take a company and what they do is they have vaults and they rent vaults from people like Loomis and a bunch of others. They have vaults all around the world and they have billions of dollars worth of metals. So these are metals that are commercial size grade bars that are in the vaults. And what happens is you open an account with them and it's all digital. Okay, so we'll come on to the pros and cons. It's all digital. You open an account with them and then you fund that account with money from your bank account, and then you can make live purchases there and then for metals in the vault. So let's say there's a 25 kilo bar in that vault and you want to buy a kilo, right? And obviously that would be silver, might not be gold because that would be a lot of money. But let's say you wanted to buy a kilo of silver, you would just look at the live price. There is a very tiny commission on it as opposed to paying a huge premium on physical. So you'd pay a very small commission percentage wise and you would purchase an allocation of that bar. Okay, so that is the main difference, and that's the big advantage of allocation. And then if you want to sell it, you haven't got the issue of, right, I've got a big tray of coins here. How do I sell this? Who do I sell it to? So then you can simply go online to your account and just click the button to sell the metal that you have when the time is right for you. And then you can transfer that money back into your bank account. Now, one thing I do want to make clear when it comes to this, because this is in effect trading in a way versus long-term buy and hold. When you buy the physical, you're going to buy this for the long term to hold it. When you're doing the digital like that, it's a lot easier and more enticing to do trading with it. Now, just for the record, I don't recommend trading unless you're an absolute guru and you're very good at trading. But I don't get involved in trading at all. Everything I talk about investment-wise and money-wise, value-add-wise, is all about the long-term strategy and big picture macro. So that is the main advantage to buying on allocation, is that you can do it very quickly. And if you are concerned or you need your money fast, you can just liquidate what you have. You pay a very tiny commission and you can transfer that money back into your bank account at the right time. Now, I wish someone had told me about this years and years ago, and that it was around a long, long time ago, because I wouldn't have put so much into buying physical and then storing it in a vault. I would have diversified a little bit. And actually what I'll do, I will make a video, but please let me know in the comments if you want me to go into more depth on this. I will make a video on allocation, and I'll probably do a purchase live. I'll set up an account, show you how it's all done, and I'll go through all the legal structure as well, because there's a lot of questions that you will have. And I've deep dived into this, probably spent 10 to 12 hours just going through all the legal aspects of it. I've gone through all the contracts, the clauses, terms and conditions, just to see if there are any loopholes or pitfalls or scams around it. And the good news is, so far I haven't found any. I do have a few small questions that I'm just waiting for these companies to get back to me on. But the good thing as well in terms of allocation is it seems as though there's 2 or 3 levels of protection on the metal that you own. So as I was mentioning earlier, if the company does go bankrupt, it appears, and again, I say it appears, you need to do your own research, that you still own that metal, which would be kept in a vault like Loomis, for example. It's not kept in a, X company vault. It's kept in one of the big vaults. And some of these have been going for so long, it's very unlikely that you'd ever have an issue. So of course, we have to address, are there any disadvantages with the allocation approach? For me personally, when I look at these 5 strategies that I'm going through, out of all 5, for me, allocation is probably my preferred approach. I do like this now. I've really looked into it and done a deep dive. I just wish more people had talked about this and there was a lot more education on allocation, because I think personally, I would have probably put about 50 to 60% of my money into allocation as opposed to 99% into metals and having that vaulted. I think both work, but if we look at it, the advantage is with allocation, as soon as I want to liquidate, I don't need to then get the metals from the vault and then, all the cost of transport and everything else and selling. So with allocation, I can quickly liquidate and transfer it back into my bank account. But for many of you, I know what's on your mind. That is, well, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? And I hear this all the time. I personally don't agree with that. I know a lot of people say it, but really, if you look where that came from, it came from the sort of people who sell precious metals. So they have an incentive for you to buy the physical from them. They get the premiums and profits, etc. But for me, I say if you own it, you've got a lot more risk of burglary and things like that. So yeah, definitely have some physical. Like I said, I've got some physical with me. Okay, option number 4 then. This is ETFs, and that stands for Exchange Traded Funds. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm not a fan of ETFs. I personally would never do an ETF. I can't even give you any benefits or advantages of it, because I think the disadvantages outweigh all the advantages. And that's for me why I'm out. I would never invest into a metal ETF. So if you haven't seen my video on the silver Q&A or the other one I talked about, where I advise people to purchase the silver because the silver price was so low, and those of you who did take that recommendation, you saw what happened. Some of you even doubled your money recently on the silver, so congratulations those of you who did that. But in the other video, the Q&A video, I talked about ETFs and I went through the contracts of the ETFs. I looked at the small print terms and conditions, and I found some shocking things in there. One of those things was that if you ever want metal, you want physical delivery of the metal, you have to wait 12 weeks. Why would you have to wait 12 weeks to get your physical metal? Surely you could just turn up, or they would post it to you or have it delivered to you within a week or 2. No, so why is that? It's because they don't hold the metal. They don't have anything. All they're holding is a contract, a piece of paper. So if you ever call in, I want this metal, they then need to go to the marketplace and find the metal. That's why they need 12 weeks. Why else would they need 12 weeks to do it? most of these vaults, they have an audit. It's a daily audit, so they can make sure that the metal is there, and they track and everything else in terms of legal compliance they have to do. So when you actually do the study into ETFs, which I've done, I found that there was, if this is how much metal there is in the world, the ETFs were so much more than that it tells you there's a lot of manipulation, and most of them just don't hold it. It's a bit like the example I gave last time of musical chairs. All these ETFs are running around, right? And when the music stops, one of them, is left with their ticket, but they can't get any metal. And we're seeing this more and more now as the mints and some of the bullion dealers have run out of metal, and there's calls on certain metals and they can't deliver upon it. So we're going to see a lot more of this as we go forward. And if everything ever did just really go bad, I pretty much guarantee you that if you wanted to actually claim from your ETF any of the metals, you're not going to be able to get those metals. There's no way. If everyone wanted to get their metal at the same time, probably 1 in 10 people would be able to get that metal. Again, that's not an actual fact. That is just my opinion on that. I may be wrong, but that's personally what I think would happen. So personally, I don't see any advantages with an ETF, apart from the fact that it's very quick and you can make some nice profits with it. But all the disadvantages just completely outweigh all the advantages for me, and for that reason it's not an investment for me. But if you're interested in it, by all means just do your research and be very careful. Now the fifth and final way to invest into precious metals is mining stocks, and I do really like mining stocks. As many of you know, I'm out of the stock market right now. I don't want to risk any of my money in the market because I feel that it's just massively overinflated, and it's only a matter of time now. I don't think it'll be too long before we see a correction with the stock market. So personally, I don't want to be involved and invested in mining stocks right now. But that doesn't mean to say that I won't be in the next 6 months. When I get back into the stock market, mining stocks are something that I will look at. However, you have to bear in mind, many people say, I'm completely diversified. I have physical gold, I have allocated gold, I have vaulted gold, and I have mining gold. I have the stock. That's not really diversified. You're really in one asset category, right? If you think about it, that's all one category. So just think about that as well when it comes to your diversification. A diversification would be, I've got some physical, I've got a mining stock, but I've also got another stock in the food and beverage industry or something like that. That is diversified, not all having the same asset group. So let me give you an example now then of a mining stock, and I'll give you one for silver, one for gold. I featured Endeavour Silver Mining Corp way back a few months ago, and that seems to be doing pretty well right now, as well as another stock which I mentioned previously, which is Barrick Mining. So Barrick Gold. Everyone knows Barrick at the moment because Ray Dalio bought into it, Warren Buffett, as well as some other famous well-known investors have bought mining stocks in it. A lot of people make the mistake. They say Warren Buffett bought gold, physical gold. He actually bought the mining stock, so did most of the other big investors. Now, why would they do that? Let's talk about the advantages. What's the advantage of a mining stock over the physical like this? Why would they not buy the physical? Well, the reason why is, number one, with the physical, if you're going to have it vaulted, you're going to have some storage fees there. The vault isn't going to store it for free. You've got to pay for that. And it won't bring a dividend or return, as I mentioned, because it's a store of value. That's very different with a mining stock. A mining stock is a company, so the more profitable they become, the more that the stock, and again, this is in theory, that the stock will go up in value, and also it will pay dividends. So Warren Buffett, for example, will get paid a dividend based on the success of the mining company. And also with mining stocks, again, in theory, when the value of the metal goes up, the spot price, also you get value added into the mining stock. And again, I say in theory because it isn't always the case if you look back. So what are the risks with mining stocks? The same risk with any company. You could have bad management, you could have illegal practices that have been going on, resulting in fines and all sorts of other things. You're at the whim of the stock market as well. So if you have a huge stock market crash, the odds are that the mining stock could also go down somewhat with it. So these are just some of the risks you've got to bear in mind. However, if you look at, say, the physical that we talked about at the start, and you compare that to a mining stock, well, which is better? that's for you to decide. I would say that they are completely different types of investment. And again, I wouldn't even consider the physical an investment. I would just consider it as a store of value versus the mining stock, which I would consider as an investment. So I hope that really helped you today. Again, I would definitely watch the other videos that I talked about. Watch through the silver investing video series. That will answer almost all questions that you have. And if you do want me to do a deep dive video onto allocated silver, just let me know, or anything else around this topic, and I will do that for you. Please remember to click the like button for me. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being online today. Appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. God bless.